Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a little bit about my last week in games. As always, we'll start with EVE Online, and I've probably played a little bit less than average when it comes to EVE Online. I've had to manage my time well because I wanted to play a lot of Stellaris and I wanted to keep up with Valkyrie as well. And so EVE Online, the playtime suffered a little bit on that. On the other hand, I did still manage to do the blueprint copy business. That's, well, still in between good and bad. I would say I'm selling a little bit, but I'm definitely not having to make 3 or 4 trips to Jita to keep up with the contract. So it's still a little bit lower, but it feels like it's not as bad as it was like last week or at the end of last week when sales really fell off quite sharply. I also discovered that the Orca blueprint copy is actually worth quite a bit of ISK, so that's probably one that I'm going to put in the rotation as well, because it's definitely worth it. Now when it comes to EVE, as a result as well, because of Guild Wars 2, Stellaris, because of Valkyrie, I've been doing so much other stuff that I've basically not been able to put a lot of time into my preparations for the expansion and for my move out. And I also got a request from someone to keep the facilities up and running a little bit longer, up until December. I'm not sure if I'm going to manage that, but I'm basically, I think, starting to think about switching from making the expansion my move time to making the expansion the start of my full-out preparations for the expansion. So that's the point where I will buy the blueprint, start making copies and sell them, the first blueprint copies of the new refineries. If you buy a blueprint original, I would advise you to sell them because they're going to go for pretty crazy prices at first. And after that, I'm going to start to build up all the resources that I need for the new refinery in Iona. And it's only after everything is said and done that I'll take down the Tital facilities there. So I think that's going to be my plan. How long that is going to take, I'm not sure, but I guess I'll just take you guys on that journey in the videos, and that's really going to be the plan from now on. So yeah, hopefully you're still getting ready, because it is going to happen at some point, but it will be delayed a little bit, and I think I'll keep you guys up to date as we get closer to the expansion itself when it comes to my concrete plans, because I'm finding out now, because of all the other extra stuff that I'm trying to put in as well, with all the other games there, that I need to really decide for myself that, you know what, with the expansion it's gonna be like 90% EVE Online from now on. We're gonna really focus on that game quite a lot more, and maybe I'll even drop off the daily quest for Hero of the Storm, or maybe even those for Valkyrie, who knows. We'll see how all of that evolves. Of course, next week we do have EVE Vegas. Perhaps we'll get some really interesting information there, some more details on the new content that's coming, maybe on the moon mining, on the new agency window. Who knows what kind of functionality they'll add in there as well. And of course the resource wars, which is something that I am planning to play probably from the start. So it is possible that I'll do some jump cloning once in a while from Amar space to Galente space when the expansion finally hits. Next up, we have some Heroes of the Storm. I'm still just keeping up with the daily quest. That means 1 to 2 games a day. Right now, for the first time, I feel like I've got a pretty annoying one. It is to play 3 games with an Overwatch hero. There's not that many in the roster, and so I basically have been playing with Tracer a little bit. It's just such a different and more hectic playstyle. It's definitely not for me, so I'm going to stick it out with Tracer just for this quest, but after that I'll probably go back to some of my more relaxed and favorite specialist heroes. Those are really my favorites out of all the playstyles. I think specialists can be quite devastating, because they often do have a build that makes them very useful in a PvP situation, but if they're left alone enough, then they can just push out the lanes, grab all of that XP, and do so very efficiently, and that is basically what I prefer to do in Heroes of the Storm. So a new hero came out, Anna. That is, from what I've seen, a pretty tricky one, a difficult one to play, and it's a ranged support hero, but I think you basically need like skill shots in order to do your healing. So that's definitely a pretty tricky hero, I think, to get to know. and I'm not sure if I'm even gonna buy her at this point because she's still 15,000 gold instead of the regular 10,000 gold. There's also a new map. That one is pretty interesting. You basically have to like do a capture the flag event every now and then 2 players jump into a mech that is then controlled, one for the mobility, the other one for the weapon systems. So that's quite an interesting system. I think that basically they may be trying to improve the Cho'Gall numbers a little bit with that, because you're getting a free experience of a playstyle like that in Heroes of the Storm. But this is also one where it really doesn't feel imbalanced, because you're taking away 2 players from the roster as well. And so even if then it comes to a big PvP brawl, sure, you're giving those guys extra HP basically to try and dish out that damage. But it's not like they all of a sudden you're going to completely steamroll the entire other team, because next to the big mech there's only 3 other players that can use their abilities. So it's definitely a very interesting concept, that one. I've had fun so far on those games, and yeah, I look forward to keeping up with Heroes of the Storm. But as I've been saying as well, for the EVE Online expansion now, because all those games have been costing me a lot of EVE time, I am planning to pour more effort, more time into EVE Online, and so perhaps at some point I will take a break from the Heroes of the Storm daily quest. We'll see how that goes, of course. After that, we've got Stellaris. I've been playing with that first race that I've created, the Grop, so the Grop Collective. I've been continuing that game. They are basically miners. It's full focus on economy, full focus on the minerals, really. And while I feel like I've been able to build up quite a nice little empire, I've also reached like the cap of my mineral investments quite on a few occasions. So you can just grab a planet or colonize a planet, and then you can just decide, all right, if you get the resources, build all the pubs on every single tile, build up every single tile, and then just move on to the next one. And so with no new planets to colonize, my only other options were to start wars with the neighboring empires and just try to take over some planets. That's what I've been doing, and we've been growing decently well. My last war, in fact, I have grabbed 3 planets in a single war and then just build them up, of course, but I'm slower than the rest, and I think it's mainly because of the lack of focus on my research. And so there is an ancient empire, one of those, what are they called exactly? I'm not exactly sure what they're called, fallen empires or something like that, that reawoke, and it's now been going after like the neighboring empires. I'm not sure what his plans are, but when I talk to him, he says that I should see the twilight of my existence coming. So he's probably planning an attack on me. And then on the other side, there's actually a Federation builder that's become more powerful than me as well, and I'm sandwiched between those two. So at the moment I'm just letting them duke it out. In fact, the last war was between those 2 groups, and so we had big fleets coming through my territory to duke it out there. I think I can still somewhat compete with the Federation, but that Fallen Empire is just a little bit too powerful, and so that game is basically at a stalemate. I can still try to pick off some of the smaller groups that might still yield me more potential territory, more potential fleet abilities. Fleet resources, but it's not going that well, because, well, the groups are mostly formed now. It's that big Federation, it's the places that are taken over by the Fallen Empire, and then there's still some I think it's like 1 group, but it's also a small Federation that is a little bit weaker, that I could still handle. And then next to me, the other Machine Empire is still there as well, but those guys, well, they're keeping up with me. They're not as aggressive as I would have thought they would be, but I guess that is because they are right next to that Fallen Empire, so they're really limited in their options to try and exterminate all the biological life in the universe. So we'll see how Stellaris will evolve. I'm probably going to try to play another game as well, but for this game it's been very, very interesting. I love the machine playstyle myself, but at this point the game basically has come into a little bit of a stalemate where I am stuck between 2 more powerful groups, and it's going to be very tricky to actually get out of that situation. And then finally we have Eve Valkyrie. I've been playing that on a daily basis now. I've been trying to keep up with the daily quests and get to know those. It's a bit of a mixed bag. On the one hand, they do have the reshuffle mechanic. Basically, you can decide to give up on one quest once a day and then you can get another one, and maybe it's an easier one to do. But it's gone from really difficult daily missions so far, stuff that I'm really not sure how you're expected to complete that in any reasonable amount of time, to pretty damn easy ones as well, which you can complete in a single game. And so at the moment, for instance, I have killed 3 shadows, so those are just in play so rarely that I'm at 3 out of 15, and I've kept that mission for like 3 days already. So that is one that I probably should have reshuffled right from the start. Then yesterday, I think it was, I got kill 7 enemies in a one-on-one combat in a heavy. So now a heavy, okay, combat, okay. What does one-on-one mean? I'm not sure, but I kill lots of people in heavies and it just never really counted to that counter. So I gave up on that, and then I got heal 7 players in a single game, and that was actually really easy to do in the right support chip. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, I think, and I'm hoping that there's a system in place that gives you at least 1 reasonable quest on the 3 daily quests that you can finish in 1 to 2 games, because that's basically what I would personally be hunting for. I don't have time to spend 4 or 5 hours on the Valkyrie to try and eke out a daily quest, or a daily mission I should call them. So I've been having fun in the game itself, though I think that while it's probably going to be quite a bit more limited than some of the other space shooters out there, for me who hasn't played that type of game very often, it feels like it's accessible, quite doable, and so far my favorite chip is the Banshee. It basically doesn't need to do a lot of aiming. You just have him in your crosshairs, get that lock, and then you just fire off your beams, and you hope that you can destroy them. So it's been going pretty well. I've been starting to know all of the mechanics a little bit. Basically the carrier assault is probably the most complex one, because you need to find all of those assault points on the carrier itself, which I don't know all of them just yet, but I've finally come into a place where I know what to do on the different maps and on the different objectives, and I can figure out how to assault the carrier, take down some of those objectives there as well, do some damage to it. And so it's all good with the Valkyrie. I do enjoy it quite a bit. It's very easy to get into. You just start the game, get into the queue, and right away you'll be tossed into a match. And the one thing is that I feel like it's a little bit more tricky from time to time to actually make sure that you're making progress towards those daily missions, because you can get stuck with some pretty bad ones, I think. But overall, Eve Valkyrie, we're still going to do our best, try to show you guys some other ships that I enjoy playing, and yeah, just keep going and see where the game will bring us. That's going to be it for this week, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Need to up the sensitivity.